radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. How you doing? Today's Monday, October 19th, 2020. Let's do this, man. 293 days into the new year, only 73 days left. We are live from a bunker that is somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. What a great week we've got lined up on the show. Holy crap. That's right. It's our Haunted Rocktober. Yeah. All right. Tonight, very special guest. Continuing our Haunted Rocktober, AP Sylvia is here. That's right. Going to be talking vampires all night long. I got hair coming down into my hair. I've had one haircut this year. One. It's October 19th. I've had one haircut. It's long, man. My stuff's starting to get long. It's starting to get long. So I gotta go get me another COVID cut. Anyway. It's long. It's long. It's just all of it is long. See? All right. I'll be all right. Tonight it's vampires. Tomorrow night, Aidan Sinclair, Becca Knight, and Susan Slaughter right here on this show. We're going to be discussing our Halloween weekend on the Queen Mary. Yeah, man. That's going to be amazing. Wednesday night. It's the return of the one and only Richard Bleepin Dolan right here. We're going to be discussing. Haven't had Richard on. We've had a busy couple of months. And I know what it seems like. Richard was on, seems like every month, but not quite. Maybe every other month. But it's been a few months since Richard's been on the show. And, I was like, I got to get my Richard fix on. Got to get my Dolan fix on, and he's going to be here Wednesday night. All of the UFO, UAP news that you can handle. Sarah Ann, hair envy. Yeah, I know. There's people out there without hair. Yeah. My brother Danny, bald. Brother Kevin, bald. David went bald. Everybody's bald in my family except for me, and it's just long, man. It's long. It's long. It's just crazy. There you go. Thursday night's another Fader night. Open lines all night long. Okay, all night long. All right. Where am I at? I was just talking about Aiden, Becca, and Susan. They're going to be with us tomorrow night. That's because next week, I can't believe it, Halloween is here. Halloween is here. Next week, October 29th through November 1st, 4 days of ghost hunting on the Queen Mary. That's right. The Haunted Weekend with the Queen. You can go and check out everything. We have the links up at jimmychurchradio.com. There's a banner right there. You'll see the Queen Mary. Click on that. Head over, get registered, use the promo code Jimmy. You're going to get another discount, which is really, really cool because you're a Fader Knot and you deserve those things. Fader Knots have privileges. Okay, so you can go and do that. Music, ghost hunting, celebrities, all of that is going down. But Friday night, the 30th, I will be down on the Queen Mary doing an actual ghost hunt. And you get to go down and hang out with me live virtually. All the cameras are there. When you go and register, you can see it all lined up. And, yeah, I am really looking forward to this. So that's going down next week, all weekend long, October 29th through November 1st. Okay? I'll be there Friday night. And everything is simple to do. Now, also, Crystal Skulls. I just want to say, all of you Fader Knots with all of your crystal skulls, it's just amazing. I'm going to start posting pictures. I've got a folder full. I'm going to start posting those. You know what? I'm going to do that tomorrow night. It's Halloween. So, yeah, that's a good shot. I'll get all of those up tomorrow night. But head over to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com, and the links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Click, and there also use the promo code Jimmy. You will get 10% off of your Crystal Skull order today. You know you want one. You know you do. Maybe you have one. You want a second one. You just want to add to your collection, or you want your first Crystal Skull. That's where you go. Carolyn Ford. She's so cool. It's fun to deal with and communicate with and just pick out the right skull for you. Okay? All right. Also, tonight, I would like to welcome our newest sponsor, Virtual Shield. That's right, Virtual Shield. Welcome them to the Fade to Black family. You can check out their banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click, and more on Virtual Shield in a bit. But VPN, you know you want it. You know you need it. And we have VPN for everybody around here now. And that's it. I'm running 1 Ethernet, 2 Ethernet, 3 Ethernet, 4 Ethernet, 5 Ethernet computers to run this show. Right? All VPN. Right now, Virtual Shield. Okay, thank you, Virtual Shield. Welcome aboard. Fader Knots are wonderful, and everybody help support the show. And you go to Virtual Shield right now. Right now, click on the banner. First 30 days free. Right. And that's how you want to get it done. And 50% discounts on everything. Everything that they offer, go right now. Click on the Virtual Shield banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, there's a link right now in the description. You can go down and click on that link and head straight over. It's right there for you. Okay. All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. At JChurchRadio. Yeah, at JChurchRadio. Why is everybody posting pictures, GIFs of hair? I feel bad. Look, I expected now at my age, I'm 57 officially. I thought I'd have a full head of gray hair or some hair and all of it gray. For some reason, it comes in dark and rapid. There you go. Virtual Shield. Yeah, thank you for that. There you go. Browse the internet safely and anonymously. That's a cast. Do it a retweet. Well done. Well done. Click on that banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Okay. Any questions or comments? No, any questions? Hashtag F2BQ. The sandbox is hashtag F2B. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get straight to the breaking news. A tsunami warning was just issued before showtime tonight for a preliminary magnitude of 7.5 in Alaska near Sand Point. The warning was for the Alaskan Peninsula and South Alaska, according to the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska. The earthquake's epicenter was recorded less than 60 miles from Sand Point near the Aleutian Peninsula in the southwestern part of the state. Several aftershocks, including one with the magnitude 5.9 and one that was a 5.8, struck in the hour after the big quake. No news on any tsunamis yet, and I will keep you posted during the show. With just 73 days left in 2020, NASA has published an alert that not one, but 5 asteroids are passing by the Earth today as the agency's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft prepares to touch down on a space rock 200 million miles away. The first 3 of the day's 5 space rocks have already passed by the Earth without incident, according to the Asteroid Watch widget that tracks asteroids and comets. Still to come are 14-meter 2020 UK with a diameter roughly the length of a semi-truck. With it's expected to fly past us at 3.85 million miles. Lastest will be the fastest. That's right, the 1-meter wide 2020 TF6, which will shoot by at a speed of 26,800 miles per hour, just 95,000 miles away. And that's close. Remember, the moon orbits the Earth at 240,000 miles. That's how close. It's only a meter. It's only a meter wide, but yeah. 5 asteroids today. Now, this is the other big news over the weekend. Another asteroid is now hurtling towards the Earth and is projected to reach the planet on November 2nd. That's right, the night before the national election. The cow-sized space junk has only a 0.41 chance of making impact with the atmosphere, but that's close. It's going to whiz by. It's going to whiz by close. That's right. If it were to impact us, it's about the size of a cow, so it would disintegrate in the atmosphere. No harm, no foul, right? Well, remember, Election Day in the United States is November 3rd. The small extraterrestrial rock named 2018 VP1, Vice President 1, was first observed on, November 3rd, 2018. That's crazy, isn't it? All right. It's going down, man. It's going down in 2 weeks. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to South Park's Trey Parker. Today is 51. John Favreau. Today is 54. John Lithgow. Today is 75. Peter Tosh, Jamaican rock star. Today is 76. Lyricist Keith Reed is 74. Who is Keith Reed? Keith Reed wrote every word of every song that had lyrics to it for Procol Harum, including The Whiter Shade of Pale. Today, Keith Reed is 74. The Doobie Brothers, Patrick Simmons, taking it to the streets. Today is 72. On this day in history, 1781, went down in Yorktown. British General Lord Cornwallis surrenders at Yorktown, Virginia. He turned over 8,000 British soldiers and seamen, 144 cannons, 15 galleys, those are boats, a frigate, that's a bigger boat, and 30 transport ships to a larger Franco-American force. And for those of you out there that don't know what Franco is, that's French. Effectively bringing an end to the American Revolution on this day in 1781. Fader fact. Do you know what a keylogger is? Well, let me tell you what a keylogger is, then I'm going to hit you with this fader fact. A keylogger is a program, a chunk of software that when you're typing your keyboard will tell somebody what you are typing. That is a keylogger. It's a scary piece of software. Right? Right. Here's your fader fact. The Soviets bugged at least 16 IBM Selectric typewriters, Selectric 2s and Selectric 3s, at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow and the U.S. Consulate in Leningrad with one of the world's first keyloggers. That's right. The circuitry was inside of a supporting bar in the typewriter. Those typewriters were heavy, mechanical, pretty badass, right? Well, had a framework on the inside. All of the circuitry was in this tube. That's right. Capturing text by measuring magnetic disturbance as the print head moved. This was sent by radio burst from the typewriter back to the Soviets. And that is your fader fact. Tonight, very special guest continuing our Haunted Rocktober is A.P. Sylvia. He's here to discuss vampires all night long, the history, the folklore, the accounts. It's going to be great. Tomorrow night, Aidan Sinclair, Becca Knight, and Susan Slaughter join us to discuss our Halloween weekend that's coming up next week on the Queen Mary. Wednesday night, it's the return of Richard Dolan for the latest UFO, UAP news from around the world. Thursday night is another fader night with open lines all night long. Now, I'm going to hit this River Moon coffee. We've got new links. We've got everything up for River Moon Coffee. Their brand new website. Nice page right there with our coffee and all of our new Black Moon products. You've got to go and check it out. You know what that promo code is. F2B Blend. All right. Well. Where do I start? Man, I need to start by hitting this coffee again. It's like this. Here we are on another Monday, getting ready to kick off another week here on Fade to Black, which means that we also just came off of another weekend of insane headlines. And I have to say, this weekend was just about the craziest yet in all of recorded history. And I mean that. And before I cover some of the insanity of the past 2 or 3 days, let me state the obvious. We are exactly 2 weeks away from our presidential election. And you must expect that the crazy talk from both sides is about to heat up. Yes, even hotter than anything in the past year. Now, as everyone knows, I don't do politics on this show. Nope, and I just don't do it. And I'm not going to change things right now. I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm not going to do it ever. Not going to do it. All right. That being said, when you follow conspiracy theory as much as I do, it has always been a challenge to keep up on things over the years. Some conspiracies are very complex. Some are not. But you have to pick and choose which ones you're going to go deep with. You have to, because they can take up nearly all of your spare time. Right now, anywhere on the net you may go, be it conventional news sources or the fringe and everywhere in between, you can find literally thousands of different conspiracy theories coming at you from every corner of the demographic. Doesn't matter what side you find yourselves on. Nope. You have conspiracies you believe in that are about the other side. Get it? And then there are an equal amount of conspiracies pointed back at you on the shady side of the fence. That's right. I said it way before it was popular, by the way. And I may have been the first, but it's really simple. Conspiracy has become the new normal. Right now, in real time, I could rattle off 50 different theories that all overlap, that cross oceans, people, religions, races, economics, geopolitics, health, and entertainment, all at once. Yeah, it's crazy now. It's just crazy. And to be honest, if just one of these conspiracy theories would pan out to actually be true, everything we know would unravel. It would. Just one, because they all overlap. They all you can get a conspiracy theory about kittens from pick a country from Libya, from Hawaii, from Taiwan, from Russia. And you can get that to tie into a Black Lives Matter protest in downtown Sheboygan. You could do it. So, I just want one to bust out. I do. I want one to bust out. I want one to be true. Because then dominoes fall. How do I say this? It would be the coolest, most amazing thing, scariest thing, intimidating thing, frightening thing, and coolest ever. But one of the most far out conspiracies that I really had my fingers crossed for was JFK Jr. still being alive. I did. I admit it. Now, as reported by most of the media over the weekend, Jr. was supposed to show up at a Trump rally in Dallas. That's right, on October 17th. And he was going to replace Mike Pence as the president's running mate. Holy crap, right? Now, to be sure, if this actually happened on the 17th, the world as we know it would have changed forever. I had my fingers crossed. I really wanted this to happen. Oh, man. But it didn't. And I was pretty bummed out. And I also know, this is where I'm going to be very serious. I also know that deep down inside, nobody, not even you, really believed it would go down. But we were just waiting. We just wanted to see that maybe, just once, the crazy would happen. It did not. Now, when it comes to all of these different conspiracy theories, I don't see red or blue. I sit right in the middle and I watch both sides go at it. It's amazing to witness. I can sit down with anyone from any side, any color, whatever, and shoot holes into the most crazy that is going down right now. I can do it. Both, it doesn't matter what it is, I can shoot it down. But here's the thing. Nobody wants to hear it. Everybody is completely blind to it, no matter what you say. Everybody seems to be taking the bait. And to be clear, everyone can't be right. And most are totally wrong. And very, very little is based on fact. That's where we are today. And right now, it seems that nobody cares. Nobody. Nobody. Today, I read the craziest conspiracy theory ever. And I'm not kidding about this. Now, I can't go into the details, but let me say this about it. It was so vile. It was so wrong. So, you know what? I can't even comment. I can't. I'll say this much. Just saying on the air what I read today, and it would probably be the last time you ever hear from me. But as I read it, I said to myself, who is making this stuff up? I know that there are people out there who live a life that is dark, that is underground, and it's away from us. I'm not naive. But right now, some of this twisted stuff is making its way up to the surface. And something is using it to mess with the good minds of decent people who make up the vast majority of everyone on this planet. I'm starting to suspect an outside influence, like as in not in the United States type of origin of these different types of conspiracy theories. I don't think they come from the United States. I don't think they come from people you know. I don't think they come from the red. They would come from the blue. They come from the black, the white, inside of the United States. They do not. They don't. But you're taking the bait on it. It's somebody messing with your head. Right now, with all of the other things that we are dealing with here in this country, specifically the pandemic and jobs and the economy and racism, and of course the election, it's the perfect opportunity for somebody to screw with you. And it seems to be working. So yes, you can expect that over the next 2 weeks, things are going to really get nuts. From both sides. From every side. Right now, I don't know how we've managed to survive 2020, but we've gotten this far and we're almost at the finish line. There are only 73 days left until 2021. So listen, folks, hang in there. It'll all work out. Pinky promise. Everything that I just said was vetted. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black tonight, right here, AP Sylvia. We are going to be discussing vampires. Now, before I get to the break, I want you to understand that last year, websites shared over 100 trillion pieces of personal data on the net. This data was taken on users just like you from various websites, like the one that we're on right now. Now, I don't like being spied on by advertisers. I don't, which is why I use Virtual Shield. Right now, click on the virtual link in the description below, Virtual Shield. It is right there. If you want to browse the internet anonymously and securely like I do, please visit virtualshield.com/fade to black or click on the link in the video description box below. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet, on the Game Changer Network. And this is the thing, as we kick this off. This is Haunted Rocktober. We've got amazing guests lined up all the way through the end of the month. I want everybody to have a great, safe, fun Halloween. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I'll be right back after this short break with tonight's guest, AP Sylvia. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And I've got AP's links up here, too. And we'll get those happening again right after the break. They're not in front of me. We'll be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. This Halloween, the Dark Zone invites you to spend 4 haunted nights with the Queen, October 29th through November 1st. Virtually board the most famous ghost ship in the world. Get your boarding pass now because you'll get to join me, Jimmy Church, on Friday evening when I go ghost hunting. Live, when anything could happen and probably will. And here's the deal. For just $19.99, you get virtual access to the entire Queen Mary, 24-hour surveillance of the most haunted rooms, interaction with your favorite paranormal investigators, very special celebrity guests including Kane Hodder, that's Jason from Friday the 13th, and Chad Lindbergh of the TV series Supernatural. Musical guests including Filter and Beasto Blanco. There will be a costume contest and a Day of the Dead celebration. Halloween is not canceled. For your boarding pass and info, just click on the Dark Zone banner at jimmychurchradio.com and throughout our social media. When you click on that link, just use the promo code Jimmy for a special discount. That's right. You are invited to spend 4 nights of Halloween with the Queen.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Somebody just tweeted. Somebody just tweeted, what is that on the front of Jimmy's shirt? It was wood chips. Doing a bunch of work over at the house before I got to the studio. I was covered in stuff. And I thought I got it all off, but it was all over me. My pants, too. Dust. That was the dust. Oh, man. But anyway, I thought I got it all off. Thanks for the heads up. All right, continuing our Haunted Rocktober. Tonight, our guest is AP Sylvia, and we're going to be talking vampires tonight, the famous and infamous accounts from the past, locations, folklore, history, and how we have interpreted the world around them. AP has long been interested in supernatural beliefs and their origins. He has explored the essential text of vampire folklore and has visited various vampire-related locations. We'll be talking about all of that tonight. He runs the blog locationsoflore.com, and his first book, Vampires of Lore, Traits and Modern Misconceptions,
was published last year in 2019 and is available at all of the traditional online booksellers. His website, of course, is locationsoflore.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, AP Sylvia. AP, good evening, man. Not quite good morning where you are, but how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, your volume is low.
How about this?
Okay, wow. Okay, we have got low volume there, AP. Just did a sound check too.
I know.
Okay, turn your side up.
How about now?
Okay, that's better. And you could probably go hotter.
How about now?
Okay, now we got you.
Hey, there you go.
Okay. See, I was nervous. I was like, man, we just sound
I know, we
checked.
just did it.
All right. Now, before we get started, AP, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way. The next time you're on with us, you don't get it. Tonight, it's the privilege of getting the first-time guest disclaimer, which is, AP, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. All right. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. That's, man, you got radio pipes, man. You got a future. Is this the world of vampires? And I've got a lot of friends that are into it and study it and research and write books and things. And they are just into the culture. But all of them, and I love each and every one, but all of them are just a little bit off of center. What got you here? Was it a crazy childhood? Was there something else going on?
Well, ever since I was a child, I've always sort of been interested in, supernatural and scary things and stuff like that. Just something I liked. Whenever if ever there was an episode that was like the Halloween episode of something, I was always excited for that. I know, maybe some kids are, they kind of get scared by things and stuff, but I was always, ready for more. Like, oh boy, this is the monster episode. I can't wait. Even a while back, I was going through some of my old books and things from when I was a kid, and I ran across this book about ghosts that was intended for kids that my mother had purchased for me at like a children's museum or something like that. And I loved this ghost book when I was a kid because it talked all about different beliefs from different places and things. And so I was always just sort of interested in that kind of topic. Really like a scary story. When I was in grade school, these books that I really liked. There was the trilogy that I think probably many people are aware of, the Scary Stories, Tell in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Those were great. I remember buying those at like a book fair or something at school. And I just devoured those, and I liked those too because they were actually like folkloric tales, and so that was something that kind of interested me too, even as a child. How there were beliefs that were kind of held by different people in different places. It wasn't necessarily just considered fiction, like a movie or something like that. That there are actual accounts that people believed to be true or reflected certain sort of fears in the culture and that kind of thing. So I've always sort of been interested in it. What really got me on probably the vampire track, and sort of what got me into writing my book, was some years ago now. I was in New York City, in Times Square with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And we were walking around kind of the seeing the sights and the bright lights of Times Square, and we came across a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. And I'm not sure if you've ever been to one of those.
I have. I've walked past the one in Times Square, never went in. We have another one here in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, I've been to that one as well. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. So I've been to a few of them, and I just love those. I love the oddities. I love all the curiosities and stuff like that. They're great. So, we went into that when we were walking around in one of the rooms in the Times Square when they kind of have, it's kind of this sort of dungeon-esque room, I think, with, kind of, spooky atmosphere. And one of the objects they had on display was this, it was like this vintage box filled with like vials and a stake and like a mold for silver bullets and stuff like that. And it was the card associated with it said that it was an antique vampire killing kit from the 1800s that people supposedly would buy if they were going to Eastern Europe or something like that. And just the aesthetic of this thing was fantastic, and I really liked it. So after that trip, after I was back home, I sort of just I kept thinking about that kit, and I was like, oh, I need to learn more about this thing. What's the story behind this? So I took to the internet and actually found out that there was some controversy surrounding these kits. While Ripley's maintains that they are authentic pieces, other people argue that they are actually they were assembled in the 20th century using vintage pieces. So an actual vampire killing kit wouldn't be period. And one of the arguments was that, well, these kits reflect kind of movie vampires and not necessarily folkloric vampires. And that's what that kind of notion really sort of got me on this track of like, well, what is the difference between our modern notions about vampires and the actual folkloric beliefs of the past? And I've watched a number of sort of documentaries about vampires and stuff like that in the past. Whenever one of those comes on, so I had some sense that there's definitely some differences there, but I ended up sort of looking. I kind of wanted a breakdown, like, well, give me sort of a piece by piece, trait by trait analysis of kind of what we think of vampires and what the actual beliefs were. And I couldn't find anything that really gave me a broad overview like that, kind of went through everything. And so I started doing research, I started reading books about it, and I wound up kind of writing the book that I wanted to read. And so that's sort of how I kind of wound up where I am, having authored this book about vampire folklore, where it's sort of this culmination of my interests, from childhood and my enjoyment of sort of spooky things and supernatural beliefs, and then sort of my academic interest, my sort of puzzle solving interest almost of trying to figure something out.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and I am not the exception here, I think it's pretty much the rule. But when I was a kid, you had the Count on Sesame Street, right? And you're watching this guy when you're 5 years old, 4 years old. You see that. You're eating Count Chocula cereal, and you're watching the vampire movies, and then you have the Halloween. Vampires were real. To me, right? And I just think that we all accepted that vampires were just something that was just normal. And I was okay with that. And then you kind of grow up and it turns into like Santa Claus, right? You get your heart broken a little bit. But then you jump into some research and then you find out about the history of vampirism and how far back it goes, and that this is which is more scary, of course, than the Count on Sesame Street. And you start to accept what was going on in the past as an adult, and then you kind of are stuck in the middle. You don't grow up as an adult and find out that Santa Claus was actually real, right? You don't have that.
No.
Did you go through those same kinds of changes?
It's definitely kind of an interesting process to start looking back at the history of things, and I definitely think it gives you a new perspective on vampires, because as you said, as a kid, you see these kind of fun vampires, cartoon vampires, the Halloween vampire, right? It's sort of there's a sort of ubiquitous imagery in our culture, right, of the vampire, and it's movies and it's fun and stuff like that. But it's, I think, sometimes sort of easy for us to forget in a way that there was a time when people were very scared of vampires. That to the people of the time, vampires were a very real thing, a very real threat to them, and they would behave accordingly. They would take action against the supposed vampire. So it adds a new dimension. It brings it out of kind of the realm of horror movies and kind of something that's sort of like fun to something that actually can be kind of, kind of somber and sobering when you really sort of put yourself in the mindset of people who were living through these fears. So it's an interesting evolution, from as you mentioned, sort of going from childhood with the Count and that sort of thing, through sort of growing up, and you sort of just sort of becomes part of the movie culture to then for me actually looking at all the historical accounts and then realizing like, oh, this was serious business to some people at certain times.
Now, what's your family? How are they about your research and the writing of this book? Are they also into this, or what was their reaction like?
Yeah, I think they were. I think that they found it very interesting. They like my parents checked out the book, and they enjoyed it, and I know I'm sure they're listening right now, so I can say hi to them. Actually my sister has gone with me when we visited some vampire sites in the area, and my wife is very supportive of my endeavors here, and is always wishing me good luck with all this stuff. So no, everyone's really been great. I don't think anyone's looking at me like, oh, this is pretty strange. I mean, I think everyone knew I was already kind of a strange guy, so quite frankly, I don't think anyone's that surprised.
Yeah, so it's not like at Thanksgiving, some family member, oh, Count Dracula's here. It's not quite like that. They're supportive.
No, everyone in my family has been very supportive, very interested. Even my extended family, people have been buying the book and stuff like that to help me out, and they're excited about it. And so I think it's great. So everyone's been really nice about it, and they like it. I think they think it's fun, and it is fun.
Now, there's another aspect to this too, because not like the Mummy or Frankenstein or the Wolfman. Nobody wants to be the Wolfman, right? Nobody wants to be Frankenstein.
No.
Everybody wants to be a vampire.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, what's not to love, right? You live forever. You get all the best stuff, and you have fun, and you work at night, right? You sleep all day. I got, it's like sign me up. And there was the element of cool, right, that came along with vampires.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that is very much kind of, that's been sort of a modern, well, I should probably be careful what I mean by modern, but that kind of this notion of the vampire being cool or suave or attractive, that grew out of like 19th century literature. If you look at like vampires in folklore, nobody wanted to be a vampire. Nobody was looking for that. They were scared to become a vampire. They were legitimately frightened of it, and they were frightened of vampires harming the living, harming their neighbors, their families. With the literature of the 19th century, and then moving on to the 20th century and movies and stuff like that, vampires evolved into this kind of alluring character. And it's interesting, you mentioned the immortality aspect to vampires, and I think that is something that very much speaks to us now, the people of the time. And I feel like vampires have always been speaking to the culture of the time and what people fear. Whether in the past, people feared or misunderstood, say, illness and communicable disease. These days, people still have kind of a fear of death and a longing for immortality. So now I feel like the vampire fiction often kind of plays that up, right? Because it resonates with audiences. And I think people are drawn to that. But at the same time, with all these kind of vampire movies, the vampire at the end of the day, the vampire is cursed for having this immortality. There's a price that they have to pay to achieve it. And I think that also speaks to us because perhaps we realize that, nature ultimately shouldn't be subverted.
When what part of the curse? I don't see the downside. So when you say curse, I say that in jest, of course. But when you say curse, what would be the curse of being immortal?
Well, if you're taking like say like a movie vampire or something like that, well, they need to survive on the blood of the living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they can't go out into the sunlight or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Their life and their existence is forever altered in order to achieve that. So if it's say in the movie the vampire has to feed on the living, well, so now in order to prolong your own life you have to shorten the lives of others, right? So there's a price there.
Now, I didn't want to get into this so early, but you just reminded me of one thing that I was always confused about, so maybe you can help me understand. I always assumed that one bite and you're a vampire, right? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It's not, right? You are feeding on the living, and they aren't necessarily. What's the difference in the bites?
So, I mean, in modern movies and fiction and stuff like that, it's obviously up to the author to decide, up to the writer to decide how somebody becomes a vampire, whether it's one bite or it's more of like a prolonged process or something like that of nightly feedings or whatever, or ingesting the blood of the vampire or something like that, right? So I think it really depends on sort of kind of what the writer wants to do there. But normally in sort of modern fiction, you need a vampire to become a vampire in some way, right? That's usually how it goes.
Right.
When you look to the folklore, on the other hand, it's much more broad. There were lots of different things that people believed could result in a vampire. People who were evil in life, people who committed suicide, people who perhaps were just fated to become vampires. So there was a lot of different things that could happen in folkloric beliefs to create a vampire. People who had been victimized by a vampire in life might become a vampire in death. But the interesting thing about it is sometimes it would be sort of years before that would happen. Like someone might have been terrorized by a vampire in life, and then they kind of live out their life and they die some point years later. Well, then they might become a vampire. So people would sort of be suspicious of that, like, oh, like they mentioned that, we know that they were terrorized by a vampire some years ago. Now they've died of something unrelated. They could become a vampire. So it's actually something that could kind of stay with someone over the years and then come back to haunt them in death.
Yeah, and it never surprises me how much society and pop culture loves the success of True Blood. Right? That was just such a huge series that took over everything. And as I was watching True Blood, another thought popped in. I'm so glad that you're on the show. Can a vampire become human again? We know how to kill vampires, right? Okay, that part I think we fully understand. But can a vampire unvampire themselves, if that's a word?
Sure. It depended. I guess I should probably preface this by saying, vampire beliefs, they exist in different countries, different regions, different cultures, right? So it's hard to sort of speak with sort of a broad brush when it comes to vampire beliefs, because you can find different variations in different places, because it's a supernatural belief, right? So it grows and evolves and changes. So there were some beliefs that after so many years, a vampire actually could become a human again, and they would essentially they would leave the village they were from, where they had terrorized, and they would sort of just go off and start a new life somewhere or something like that. So like there was a belief that could happen. So they might sort of go somewhere else as a stranger. So there that was established in some beliefs. Others, No, it was just sort of the vampire was always just kind of a vampire. And actually, some even believe that a vampire had a lifespan of its own, and then it would sort of stop. It would sort of just die. I think sometimes perhaps that belief might have grown out of people wanting to have some kind of explanation and comfort, knowing that this bad thing is happening right now, but it's going to go away. Because it's important to remember too, a lot of these these vampire incidents, they would happen during times of strife or calamity, right? Like, the village, say, there was some kind of illness that was going through the village, right? One person gets sick, seemingly healthy person, they get sick, they pass away. Then another person, maybe in their family, gets sick, passes away. Then another person. And so people were looking to explain this because, when you go back, say, 1700s or something like that, they didn't have germ theory. They didn't understand, they didn't have the benefit of our understanding of disease. So they were looking to find some kind of cause for what was going on, what they were seeing around them. So sometimes in some places, their suspicions would turn towards the dead. And they would look to the people who had died and say, well, who was the first person that died? What was going on here? So that's sort of how it would grow out. So, the beliefs would vary, but I think a lot of times people would just think like something needs to be done to this vampire. Otherwise, we're all going to, we'll eventually get wiped out.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, AP Sylvia, and we are talking vampires all night long tonight. We're discussing accounts from the past. We're going to get into that after the break and the origins, locations, folklore, history, all of it. It's going down tonight here on Fade to Black, continuing our Haunted Rocktober. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Now, AP's website, locationsoflore.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with AP after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I'm a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein the Ancient Crystal Skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our Haunted Rocktober. Tonight, AP Sylvia is here. Tomorrow night, on this very program, Aiden Sinclair, Beckett Knight, and Susan Slaughter. They're going to be here to discuss our haunted weekend that's going down next weekend, Halloween weekend, where we are ghost hunting on board the Queen Mary. Wednesday night, Richard Dolan returns. We will be discussing UFOs and UAP headlines from all around the world. Tonight, it's AP Sylvia. We are discussing vampires. Now, right before the break, as AP, as we start to get into the history of all of this, I want to let you know, and everybody else that's watching on the camera, I just lit some Romanian incense down here in the bunker. Is some anti-vampire incense, and it smells like garlic. Do you have any of that, AP?
You know, I don't, but maybe I should get some.
Well, if you like garlic. But, you know, here's the deal. Does, as we discuss, you know, the origins and the history of vampires, does it all start with Vlad the Impaler, or was there stuff going on before then?
There definitely was stuff going on before then. I think vampire beliefs in some form or another probably stretch back, you know, quite far into history. Vlad the Impaler, he comes up a lot. You know, especially if you're watching maybe like a documentary about vampires or something like that. He comes up in relation to Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. You know, there's been a lot of sort of conjecture about, you know, Stoker used Vlad the Impaler as sort of the inspiration for his character Count Dracula, and that sort of thing. I mean, basically, so Vlad the Impaler, he was prince of Wallachia, which is now a region in Romania, in the 1400s. So he ruled there during a time when there was it was a brutal time. He was a very brutal ruler. His country was kind of positioned between the Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire, and so there was a lot of war, a lot of conflict. And he actually ruled 3 separate times because due to sort of people trying to take the throne and stuff like that. So it was he had a very precarious position. So part of what he sort of did to kind of cement his position and fend off these sort of invading armies and stuff like that, he was known for his extreme brutality, right? So Vlad the Impaler. I don't think anyone called him that to his face.
Right,
hey,
right.
Hey, Impaler, how you doing?
Right.
But he was believed to have impaled thousands of people and enemy troops on pikes and stuff like that.
Now his dad's name was Dracul.
Correct. So his father was Dracul. He took the name Dracul because he was a member of the Order of the Dragon, which was this order of knighthood. So his son Vlad took the name Dracula. Dracula meaning the son of the dragon. So he was Vlad III. So in his lifetime, he would have been Vlad III or Vlad Dracula. So that's where his name came from, son of the dragon. We know that when Stoker was researching his book, Dracula, he ran across this one history book talking about the histories of Wallachia and another country, Moldavia. And in that book, there is a reference to the ruler Dracula who fought against the Ottomans and that kind of thing. It's not a long reference. It's a short reference, but it mentions the name Dracula. In the book, it mentions that Dracula means devil. So that name, Stoker liked that name. That resonated with him. He thought it was a good name, and so he took that name for his main character. Before that, I think I shouldn't say the main character, the Count Dracula, the villain, right? Before he took the name Dracula, I think Stoker was going to call him like Count Wampir or something like that. So Dracula is a great name. Glad he went with it. In the novel, there are some references to sort of who Dracula was in life. And like Van Helsing talks about, it's Dracula. He fought the Turks and stuff like that. And it seems pretty clear that Stoker was getting his information from that passage in this book. There's been a lot of conjecture that Stoker knew a lot more about Dracula. And this research and knew about sort of the impaling and this and that. But that's all really conjecture, really, as from sort of what I've read of others. There's a scholar, Elizabeth Miller. She researched this quite extensively, and basically the only thing we can say for certain is that Stoker kind of got this one reference about Dracula in this book, and that's kind of it.
Now, I wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions because growing up, as I started looking into this, and of course Anne Rice comes into play, and you start to research the history. I read a few things. One, that Vlad used to sign his paperwork Dracula, and I thought, wow, that's kind of strange. Okay, is it Vlad III? Is it Dracul, or are there serious origins to this? And Dracula is not a Hollywood situation, that there is foundations of this, and he's to sign it Dracula. And the second part of that is I had read, and I just want your clarification on this, that Dracul was dragon in some parts of Transylvania and Romania, of course, but it also means the devil. Now, is that, I mean, dragon is cool, right?
Yes.
Devil is not. Now, what are we dealing with here, or is this just part of folklore?
So as I understand it, so first of all, Vlad would, he went by Dracula. That was certainly a name that he would have gone by. As far as I understand it, the Dracul could mean either dragon or devil.
Right.
I haven't explored the linguistics sort of beyond that in terms of regionalizations and things. I think when Dracul took when he took the name, it was to mean dragon because of the Order of the Dragon. But obviously, like when Stoker took the Dracula name, he took it because it would mean devil.
Right. So there is truth to that then. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for years. Now, one other question, really quick. The images of Vlad the Third, and of course Vlad Dracul, his father, when you first look at them and you're researching vampire, you look and you're like, well, yeah, that's a vampire, right? He looks vampire-ish. Is some of the imaging today, is it taken directly from those original portraits?
There's some like woodcuts and a famous painting of Dracula. He certainly is an intimidating figure. Just sort of the visual of him. I will say that in his lifetime, people didn't believe that Vlad Dracula was a vampire, right? They didn't think that. He was certainly a very brutal ruler, but they didn't think that he was sort of supernatural or something like that. There was sort of a poem that was written about Vlad the Impaler, which at one point got translated to me to say that he dipped his bread in the blood of his victims. But since then, it's been asserted that was a mistranslation, that it meant that it was actually saying Vlad washed his hands in the blood of his victims, which is still very disturbing, but not vampiric.
Did he? Were there any accounts of him drinking blood?
To my knowledge, no.
Now, you mentioned, let's steer off of this. We're going to come back to Vlad, of course, but predating Vlad and accounts of vampires, there's plenty of stuff in the 18th century, 17th century, 18th, 19th, of course, the modern stuff. But predating the 14th and 15th centuries with Vlad the Impaler and Dracula, what are the instances in the historical record about vampires?
Sure. So one of the accounts that I found during my research dates from the 12th century, and I can share that story with you. It was written down by a chronicler named William of Newburgh in the 12th century, and he was British, and this is a British story. So I find this story particularly interesting because of the fact that it is outside the bounds of place and time that you normally associate with vampires, right? Normally you think of vampires like, Romania,
Transylvania,
right? And, Transylvania, right? The Eastern Europe, 1700s, 1800s, that sort of thing. But so this is now going over to Britain, 1100s. The story takes place at Anantis Castle, which it's not clear whether that's in modern day like Scotland or Northern England, but somewhere in there, on Great Britain. It's the story of this man who he was sort of kind of thought to be sort of a scoundrel, and he suspects his wife of cheating on him. So he decides that he's going to catch her in the act. So he tells his wife that he's going to go away for a while, or she's going to go out on a trip or something like that. And instead of leaving, he hides in the rafters of their dwelling and sort of waits there for her to have her liaison with her lover, so he can catch her. But while he's up there in the rafters waiting, he loses his balance, he falls, and he hits the ground and severely injures himself. So he is taken to his bed. He's severely injured. The priest comes to offer him last rites, but he refuses. And then he subsequently dies of his injuries. So this scenario, in our modern notions, we wouldn't necessarily think of this person becoming a vampire, but to the mind of the people at the time, this is kind of a prime situation of someone becoming a vampire. They were sort of an evil person in life. They died in sort of an unnatural way, not necessarily suicide, but it was an unnatural death, and they died in a state of sin. They refused the last rites. So this is kind of a prime example of someone becoming a vampire, and that's essentially what happens. After he's buried, his body starts rising from the grave every night and starts walking through the town, and it's chased by a pack of dogs that accompany him. And so the townsfolk, they stay indoors to avoid being attacked by this revenant. The term vampire, there's many different terms for sort of these undead menaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the townsfolk, they stay inside to avoid being attacked by him, but his breath ends up poisoning the air, and so a plague descends upon the town. So people start dying. So as time goes by, people start, more and more people start dying. People start fleeing the village, and then ultimately there's sort of not many people left. So the remaining townsfolk, they kind of go to have a meeting to kind of discuss what's to be done. But these two brothers decide that they're going to take action on their own. They say to themselves, our father died due to this plague. We're going to be soon to follow unless we do something. So they go to the grave of the dead man. They dig him up, and the corpse of the dead man is kind of bloated. And as they're digging him up, they pierce him, and this blood comes out. And they say that the corpse appeared as if it was a leech filled with the blood of many people. And if you read the Latin version of it, the term they actually use is sanguisuga, which translates to leech, but actually quite literally translates to blood sucker. So they take the corpse outside the village, they rip out the heart, and they burn the body. And in burning the body, they destroy the revenant, and the flames have a sort of purifying effect on the air, and the plague is lifted. And so these two brothers end up saving the village from the threat of this dead man.
Wow, that's 12th century?
Correct.
Wow, that's crazy town right there.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say they used a stake, but I felt that one was coming. So that's 12th century. What about the word vampire? Where are those origins?
So the word vampire. There's been a lot of discussion about sort of where that comes from. It probably came from like the word upir, which might come from the word witch, and I believe Turkish. So like that's sort of that's kind of one hypothesis of sort of where the term came from. Might surprise people to hear that, oh well, the term vampire evolved from the term for a witch. But actually, when you look at the folklore, that's actually not very surprising. There's actually a lot of overlap and interplay between beliefs surrounding vampires, beliefs surrounding witches, and beliefs surrounding werewolves. And really, there's many different terms for sort of the undead that sort of might be a threat to you, and it changes from region to region. In my book, I share a lot of those terms. When I share the stories, I'll often say kind of what they called it. But you definitely don't want to just scope it down to them saying, oh, this was a vampire, because you'll miss tons of stories, like the one I just shared. They were known by many different names depending on the place.
Now, what about? I'm going to get to some other specific accounts in the next segment, everybody. But the traditions that we all know about: garlic, right? Holy water, silver bullets. Silver bullets is obviously newer. Holy water is probably quite old, right? And garlic could probably go back. When did these, should I say, defensive products, right, start to surface?
Yes. So when you look at the beliefs, there were a number of different sort of different tools of the trade that people would use to sort of fend off vampires or fend off evil. Holy water, obviously. I don't think it's surprising to learn that's sort of well established in folklore. This is that would have fit well with people's spiritual beliefs, right? Of the power of God protecting them. So there's various accounts and beliefs of people using holy water to sort of to protect things, crosses, as well. There's an interesting story where this vampire he's sort of, I think, out by a graveyard or something. This guy is sort of riding by in a carriage, and he picks up the vampire as a hitchhiker, not realizing it's a vampire. Unfortunately he does. The vampire says, like, well, take me into town. And so every house they go to, the vampire would say, like, oh, the door's locked tight, even if it wasn't, because the doors had crosses on them. And then the last house they get to, there's an immense lock on this door, on the gate to get inside, and but there's no cross. And the vampire just magically opens the door and goes in and attacks the people. So sort of this, sort of these religious symbols are certainly well established. Garlic also is well established in folklore. Accounts of it in Transylvania being used to protect houses from vampires. They'd put up the garlic or rub it into sort of like rub it around the door and stuff like that. The idea behind the garlic is sort of interesting. You sort of wonder what sort of caused that belief in garlic, right? Right, this sort of pungent ingredient would be keeping vampires away. One thing to mention about garlic is that there's, even since ancient times, there are a lot of beliefs surrounding garlic of its health, of its benefits, and it could ward off animals and stuff like that. So it might have sort of, the belief in garlic might have kind of grown out of sort of a lot of the things that were sort of thought about garlic since ancient times. But there's sort of one interesting hypothesis about garlic, is that, so garlic is a very pungent, so it's very pungent, right? Has a very strong odor. Vampires were also believed to have a very strong odor because they were dead. So there was this idea that the smell of the garlic would mask the smell of the vampire. And thus, by repelling the smell of the vampire, it would also sort of, I guess through sort of sympathetic magic or something like that, repel the vampire itself. So you have this sort of interesting notion of the sort of practical application of garlic, of overpowering some other smell, to sort of taking it to a supernatural end and repelling evil itself. So garlic, again, very, very well established in actual folkloric beliefs.
Now, before we get to the break, we've got about 5 minutes. The mirror, right? Vampires don't show up in mirrors. Where did that get its start?
You can actually thank Bram Stoker for that.
Right.
So he came up with the notion that the vampire would not have a reflection in the mirror. If you actually look at in Bram Stoker's notes that he took for, in preparation for writing Dracula, he actually had planned to have it be that the Count couldn't be photographed or painted or anything like that. There could be no visual record of Count Dracula. Mirrors traditionally had a lot of there's a lot of associations with the soul in mirrors, right? Like there were beliefs about covering mirrors up after a death, because people could be vulnerable to dying. Living could be vulnerable to dying if somebody else died, probably due to like the reflection of the soul in the mirror, that sort of thing. So it could be that Stoker was kind of getting influenced by that kind of belief and using that imagery of the vampire not being reflected to kind of imply that Dracula didn't have a soul because there was nothing being reflected in the mirror. There actually were folkloric beliefs that if a corpse was reflected in the mirror, that it might actually become a vampire. So you might actually sort of maybe the like sort of a different kind of track with the mirror in terms of vampire beliefs. But ultimately, the no reflection came from Stoker.
Now, really quick, before the break, best vampire movies. Now, before you say Nosferatu, because that's on the top of my list, I'm going Lost Boys. But before we even go there, what are your What are the best vampire movies?
I mean, obviously the classic Universal Dracula with Bela Lugosi. Naturally Nosferatu. One I actually do really like was from the 90s, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, that's the Francis Ford Coppola version?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great movie, man. That's a great movie.
Absolutely. I really like that one. Obviously, it's it's got its flaws, and people point that out. But I really like the imagery of it. I think the performances for Dracula and Van Helsing are fantastic. I like the practical effects used. So that's one I really like. Actually, a fun one is Fright Night. If you've ever seen that one.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Fright Night. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. What about What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh my God, that movie's fantastic.
Isn't it though?
Oh, that is so fantastic. I need to see the series.
Yeah.
I need to watch the series.
I've watched, every time I start to watch the series, I get pulled off of it. Jermaine is just funny in anything that he does. And Taika Waititi, he's over the top in everything that he does. But yeah, that movie. Now, see, the thing is this. I've only got 45 seconds before the break. The movie is funny, no question about it. But the movie really, if you get into it, is pretty creepy. It's a pretty scary movie if you think about it. That house is a scary house.
It is.
There's things about it. But anyway, I love What We Do in the Shadows. But all of the Dracula series of movies, especially from the 70s, I really enjoyed. But going back to Bela Lugosi, I think that still is where the strength is when we talk about Dracula movies. Now, before we break though, the first time I saw a Nosferatu, I saw it as a silent movie. It's a silent movie, but with a pianist playing live along with it, right? And it was outdoor, and I walked away from that thinking to myself, that is the scariest movie I have ever seen. What was the movie that was made, the remake of that, when Nosferatu was real?
Shadow of the Vampire?
Yeah, Shadow of the Vampire. Yeah. See, now, okay, I could have written Shadow of the Vampire. In that, after I saw the original version of it, I was so creeped out. And you have to think about when they made the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from the 1920s, but it's got such powerful visuals that I think it can resonate with people today.
Yeah, totally scary. 1922, I think, 21. Absolutely nuts. So let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, AP Sylvia, part of our Haunted Rocktober. Tonight it's vampires all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
All Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. This Halloween, the Dark Zone invites you to spend 4 haunted nights with the Queen, October 29th through November 1st. Virtually board the most famous ghost ship in the world. Get your boarding pass now because you'll get to join me, Jimmy Church, on Friday evening when I go ghost hunting. Live, when anything could happen and probably will. And here's the deal. For just $19.99, you get virtual access to the entire Queen Mary, 24-hour surveillance of the most haunted rooms, interaction with your favorite paranormal investigators, very special celebrity guests including Kane Hodder, that's Jason from Friday the 13th, and Chad Lindbergh of the TV series Supernatural. Musical guests including Filter and Beasto Blanco. There will be a costume contest and a Day of the Dead celebration. Halloween is not canceled. For your boarding pass and info, just click on the Dark Zone banner at jimmychurchradio.com and throughout our social media. When you click on that link, just use the promo code Jimmy for a special discount. That's right. You are invited to spend 4 nights of Halloween with the Queen.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, AP Sylvia is here. We are talking vampires all night long. That's right, Halloween is next week. Can't believe it. And I hope that vampires come and visit my house. I don't know what's going to go on with trick-or-treating. Kind of bummed out about that. And before we continue here, I want to get into historical accounts of actual vampires throughout history, and we're going to do that. But in Romania, like today, vampires are a serious subject, aren't they? I mean, that is part of culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably depends on where. in Romania, you are. I would think probably in sort of the urban areas, the cities, and stuff like that. Maybe maybe not so much. I think in some remote places, in some remote villages, these beliefs do still persist. There was, I briefly mentioned this in my book, there was an incident that happened in the 2000s where in a village people believed that that they were being tormented by the vampire of someone who was recently deceased, and they kind of took action against the corpse and made it into some of the papers and made it into the kind of the international press. So I think in some places there it is still it is still kind of
Wait. Stop, AP. Stop right there. What do you mean took action against the corpse?
Oh, they I think I want to say they cut out the heart of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And this is recent.
Yeah, this was in it was 2004.
Wow.
So yeah, they extracted the heart and they impaled the body with stakes and sprinkled it with garlic. And so what they did is the heart was burned and mixed with water. The ashes were mixed with water, and it was given as a drink apparently to the people who were ill as a result of the vampire's visits.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, no, that's
well, see, they take it serious then.
They do, and I think I want to stress that this was in probably a rural area. I don't think if you take a flight over to Romania and start asking people about vampires, I don't think necessarily everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, they're real. It probably depends on where in the country you are and who you're talking to.
You're right about that. Now look, if you and I go to Romania, right, and we're doing a little research trip and we wander into some tavern in some small town and start talking vampires, I don't think we're going to get greeted too well. It's just like the movies, right? It's going to go silent and nobody's going to talk to us about it. And because this is something that is part of their culture.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely it's part of the history, it's part of the culture. And it could be, it also could be that some people like maybe don't appreciate sort of the pop culture, interest in it or something like that, or maybe they've kind of felt that they've heard enough about it. I think it's sort of an interesting situation because obviously some people go there and they're interested in vampires, they're interested in like Vlad the Impaler, right? So there's merchandise that's sold with Vlad the Impaler's face on it, and people are there because of the associations to Dracula and vampires. But at the same time, like Vlad, as I understand it, is considered something of kind of a folk hero in Romania.
He's a national hero. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Because he sort of fought to sort of preserve the independence of his country and fought for the people and stuff like that. So I think there's sort of an interesting kind of balance that probably happens there with, there's this tourist interest in vampires. But at the same time, you don't want to sort of trivialize what they deem culturally important or sort of take it out of context.
No, they sell a lot of T-shirts.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they appreciate the tourism, but it's a fine balance for sure because you have a national hero, but that castle and those towns invite a lot of tourism from around the world, and yeah, you've got both. Now let's go to some of the actual accounts of real life vampires. What's the earliest?
Well, it's interesting, and I think it depends on how you want to define a vampire. So if you start reading about vampires and stuff like that, you inevitably run across stories of like monsters and demons and things that drank blood and stuff. So they often get like, oh, well, that was a vampire or something, or that's like a vampire creature or something like that. So oftentimes, maybe if you if you watch a show about vampires or something like that, they might talk about like the story of Lilith, who was uh, like in this tradition, like considered like the first wife of Adam, right, from Adam and Eve, right? Lilith was the first wife who sort of refused to be subservient and exited the garden, rejected Adam, exited the garden, and ends up sort of turning into this monster, this demon that like would come in the night and kill babies and stuff like that. So sometimes if you're researching vampires, you might run across a story like that, and like it, they'll sort of liken this character to a vampire and something.
Now, okay,
So-
right. Well, let me actually jump back to a point that you just made. That what is a real vampire account, right? What comes into that? Well, if I'm going to, check the boxes on this, somebody that is, biting the neck and drinking the blood of victims, and apparently is, how do I say this? Doing this at night, isn't seen during the day. And the town folk are calling him a vampire.
So that's it. So that's interesting. You've got some interesting points there, and some interesting interpretations. So for me, when I started writing this book, and I kind of talk about this in my book, I said, well, I need to figure out what the criteria for what a vampire is, because you run across all these stories of like Lilith, or in sort of in ancient Greece, there was a monster that was as an impusa, that it looked like a woman, but it would, it had sort of magical powers, and it would, drink your blood and stuff like that, right? But I was like, well, what really, how do I define a vampire so I can kind of hone in on what I think is the most sort of what reflects sort of the psychological implications of what was going on. So I came up with 3 criteria. So my criteria were, number 1, it has to be the corpse of a once living person, right? So this was someone that was alive at one point, lived in a village somewhere, and now they're dead. It's that. So I state that to distinguish it from some kind of non-human entity, like some kind of monster or demon or something like that, that was never human to begin with, right? So that was my first criteria. My second criteria was that it is harming the living in some way.
Right.
So I'm actually casting a bit of a broader net than just the blood drinking, because I think if you simply focus on the blood drinking, you're going to miss a lot of other stories that I think are relevant and sort of tie into the underlying theme of vampires, which is sort of a fear of the dead.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll broaden the scope.
We can broaden the scope, and I can actually, I'll share. I can share an account with my kind of put this in perspective a little bit.
Okay.
And then lastly, in order to get rid of the vampire, action has to be taken against the corpse itself. Right. So there's a physicality to vampires. It's not like kind of a disembodied spirit, sort of untethered or something like that. There's a real problem that is lying in the ground out there, and you need to take action against that to save yourselves. So those were my criteria for what a vampire is. So I think, based upon that criteria, I think, you see there's vampire beliefs kind of throughout the world in different forms and in different ways. Probably one of the earliest accounts I did run across that really gave like a solid account was that one from like the 12th century. But I think that these kinds of these fears of the dead and stuff like that would stretch back, much farther.
Okay. So the first, the account that you just said you were going to share with us.
Sure. So there was an incident. This was in the 1700s, I believe 1725, in a town in Serbia. There was a villager named Peter Plagojewicz, and he passes away one day, and then some months later, more villagers start to die. So there's this illness, people sort of, they suddenly get sick and they die very quickly. And the village starts getting very concerned. The villagers start getting scared. They see people sort of dying sort of unexpectedly. People who seemed healthy, suddenly they get sick. They die in short order. And there are some people who are saying that, oh, well, Peter, who was the first to die, he came to me in the night and he lay on top of me and strangled me while I was asleep. So the fear and the suspicion sort of point towards Plagojewicz. And so I think it's important to note that the victims are saying that they're not saying that he was biting them or anything like that. He was saying that they were being strangled in the night, right? So the villagers, they wind up going to like this government official, and they ask if they can exhume the corpse. And the official is kind of he's a little like, well, let me ask my bosses. And the villagers are like, no, we're going to do this, or we're all going to abandon this village because we're all going to die if we stay here because this corpse is going to kill us. So the government official's like, all right, let's go do this. And so they go, they exhume the body of Plagojewicz, and when they open up the casket, they look at the corpse and they see a condition that you wouldn't normally expect to see in a decomposing body. So one thing is that he looks very fresh. He looks like he hasn't decayed, right? He looks like he's still got this vitality. It looks like he's got like fresh fingernails. And one of the striking things is that there is blood around the corpse's mouth. And people see this blood and they go, oh, that's the blood that he sucked from his victims, right?
Now, how long was he in the ground for?
I believe it was a number of months.
Whoa. Okay. Continue. So what'd they do with the body?
So they cut a stake. They take a stake. They drive it into him, and I guess blood comes out, and then they burn the body. And so that deals with and eliminates the vampire threat. In some other accounts, it mentions that Plagojewicz like visited his son and asked for food on a number of nights, and then ends up killing the son and stuff like that. But I think this account is very interesting in the fact that people weren't talking about blood until they exhumed the corpse and they see the blood around the mouth. Before he's exhumed, they're talking about sort of being strangled by the corpse. And they do believe the corpse is causing people to die. It's causing illness. But then when they see the body, then it kind of raises it brings about this other kind of explanation or belief. And so what was going on, and what was going on in a number of these kinds of accounts, was that there was a misunderstanding. Well, there's a misunderstanding about kind of disease in general, right? People are looking to explain something that's going on, this dire situation. But then when they look at the body, they don't necessarily understand the decomposition process. So they were expecting to see someone who's sort of withering away and that kind of thing, which, depending on, the temperature and time of year and stuff like that, it may take a while for a corpse to decompose. Blood around the mouth can actually happen during the decomposition process. Fluids can come out through the mouth, which, these villagers looking at that wouldn't have necessarily known. Things like, if the fingernails fall off, the nail beds can look like new nails, that sort of thing. And there are other accounts where people would exhume a body and they would see, it would look as if the body had actually gained weight. The person looked like they were heavier than they were in life, which is actually another thing that can happen during decomposition, that gases build up and bloat out the body. So this is kind of I think that even nowadays people might be surprised to kind of learn these sorts of things. You tend to think of decomposition as someone sort of withering away into a skeleton, and that's what these people were looking for. But that's not necessarily what happens, depending on the condition of the body, the temperatures, and various other things. So people were seeing these natural processes and interpreting them as vampiric evidence. So there's, I think, sort of an interesting story of how some of this blood drinking might have come into play with vampire beliefs. And that's not to take away from sort of the long held beliefs of blood being associated with life and stuff like that.
There are so many accounts of people, biting the necks and drinking the blood of their victims in a modern sense, and we can certainly discuss that. But the other part about this is that it makes you wonder about how many towns around the world dug up a corpse and burned it and pulled the heart out, or did things right to cure them of what was going on in these towns and villages, maybe even cities too as well, countless times. And then that the stuff that was bothering the town or the village stopped, right? So that is their answer in the future if anything strange happens again and somebody starts pointing the finger at somebody.
Right. Oh yeah, it's so, I mean, it's hard to know how many times this has happened and how many places. I mean, clearly there's a tradition of this in a variety, kind of in a variety of countries. Some of them we know about and are very well documented. Some of them make it into newspapers and stuff like that, and cause a sensation. But there's probably many others that it was done and no one talked about it, and sort of the village elders or whatever sort of kept that in mind and passed that tradition along, and this worked in the past, and it took care of it, and this will do it again. I think it's in a variety of these tales, I think it's important to realize too that people didn't have the benefit of the knowledge we have today. They were seeing friends and loved ones get ill. They were scared of losing more people, and so they were desperate, and so they resorted to desperate measures in an attempt to save lives. So you can only imagine kind of the mindset that that people were in when they had to do when they felt they had to do these kinds of things.
Now, what about Elizabeth Bathory? And the reason why I want to bring that up, would she be classified as a vampire? And when you go back to when she was in her reign of killing, the late 1575 to 1600, where she, I guess the story goes, she drank the blood of like 1,000 servant girls to preserve her youth and immortality. But that was after Vlad. But the vampire side of these stories really hadn't taken root yet. Where did she get her ideas from, and would she be classified as a vampire?
So I would not classify her as a vampire. I mean, she was a living person, right? She wasn't undead. She, and obviously this was, she was put on trial and stuff like that. And this was hundreds of years ago, so it's always it's always hard to tell what actually happened and what was sensationalized and what was kind of said after the fact. But basically she was put on trial for, killing and torturing, a large number of servants. And there were stories, and again, it's hard to know if how historically accurate this is, that she was bathing in the blood to preserve her youth and that sort of thing. But again, she's not a vampire, right? Because she's not like an undead person. She's not an undead corpse that's going back to the grave in during the day and stuff like that, or whatever. She was believed to be like a serial killer, right?
Mhm.
And so so then she's put on trial and found guilty. I believe she ends up getting walled up in a room in her castle, and then dies sometime later. So she often comes up in like documentaries and stuff like that, and there's obviously these interesting associations between the blood drinking and the youth and things like that, and that obviously resonates very much with us in our modern notions about vampires. But I would assert, the way I would define a vampire, I would say no, she wasn't a vampire. And I actually think there are some scholars that argue that she might have actually been framed for the whole thing. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I haven't necessarily dug into it. There was evidence against her and stuff like that, a lot of witness testimony and stuff. But again, it was hundreds of years ago, so it's always kind of hard. It's hard to know.
Well, you pull into a village in Slovakia, back then, outside of her castle, and you're like, where are all the girls?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
where is it? Yeah. Where is everyone?
I mean, 600 to 1,000 girls killed over a 20-year span is, and to be framed for that, and she was convicted. I know, I've heard both sides of the story, right? That it's
Sure.
it's all made up. There's always, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? But what I've always found interesting with her case is the suggestion of youth and immortality and the drinking of blood and the bathing of blood in the victims feels vampirish to me. But you're right, she wasn't necessarily undead that we know of.
Yes, and again, blood also has these sort of ancient sort of associations with life, right? So you could see how maybe sort of in a twisted mind, like, well, the blood will carry the vitality of those towards the person bathing in it or consuming it or whatever. But yeah, it's certainly a very disturbing case. And if it was framed, then obviously then you have to kind of contend with the evidence that was kind of put against her. I think there was something like 300 people testified against her or something like that. But again, it's hard to was it all just hearsay or something like that? But it is quite the story. Certainly some of the elements resonate with us with our notions about vampires. But I would say for me, she wasn't a vampire, and I don't think people at the time would have considered her to be like an undead vampire. I think they probably just thought she was like a deranged serial killer.
Now, who was a better vampire? Is it Bela Lugosi or Christopher Lee? Don't say Tom Cruise. We're going to keep him out of the play.
I mean, I think for me, I think Bela. To take nothing away from Christopher Lee, I think Christopher Lee brought a great intensity to his Dracula in the Hammer films. But I don't know, Bela just. I mean, he's almost the archetypal vampire at this point. The suave, the kind of this suave, elegant vampire. He had the Hungarian accent, and I think when you watch that movie too, he brought a lot of intensity in sort of even just when he wasn't speaking, in his gaze and stuff like that. Probably because he came from the theater background. But I enjoy his performance for sure.
Yeah, one of the greatest lines in all of cinema. I don't drink wine.
So good.
It's just one of the best ever. But I also liked Kiefer. Kiefer was pretty good. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, AP Sylvia. We're discussing vampires all night long. When we come back, we've got to get to some locations, right? And also modern vampires. Are they walking among us? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regiment? until it's too late. We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proven, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics help create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFONightVisionGoggles.com. That's UFONightVisionGoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, AP Sylvia is here, part of our Haunted Rocktober, discussing vampires all night long. Man, I've learned a lot tonight, and thank you, AP. What a great conversation. Haunted vampire locations here in the United States. Are there places I can go?
Sure, there are a number of locations you can check out. So a number of them in New England. So there are a number of instances where back in the 19th century and earlier, where people believed that the dead were harming the living. And I talk about some of these places on my website, locationsoflore.com. Probably one of the most famous locations is the gravesite of Mercy Brown, and which is in Exeter, Rhode Island. It's in a cemetery there. What the story behind that incident revolves around the Brown family was the late 1800s. During this time, the tuberculosis could be a problem, and could cause a lot of people to pass away. And that's what happened. That was what was happening with the Brown family. So you had a mother and a father, and you had 2 daughters and a son. So the mother passes from tuberculosis, known then as consumption. One of the daughters passes from consumption as well, and then like another year or 2 later, another daughter passes. Mercy Brown passes from consumption. I believe she was 19, and then the brother Edwin is also getting sick with consumption. So during this time, they didn't really have any treatments for consumption. Edwin spent some time in Colorado. They thought like the dry air would help.
Right, I remember this story now. So the father sent him away. Right.
Yes. So he goes to Colorado for a while in the hopes that the dry air would heal him, because sometimes doctors attributed consumption to like the moist air in the area or something like that.
Right.
So he ends up returning after the death of his sister. He is not getting any better. So Edwin, he's a grown man. He's kind of slowly kind of declining. And so at this point, the father he's lost a wife, and he's lost 2 daughters, and now he is on the verge of losing a son. So at this point, there's really nothing else to be done for from the doctors. So the father, George, he starts hearing from the community that, well, there's still one more thing that could be done. It could be that the dead, one of the previous people who had died from consumption, is now causing the illness in Edwin. And so, what happens is, as kind of we've been talking about all night, the people, they go to the cemetery and they exhume the corpses of the 3 family members who had passed away. They look, the mother and the older sister, they had been dead for a few years already, I believe, and so they had decomposed to the point where they were no longer under suspicion of being vampires. Mercy, on the other hand, had been dead, I believe, a few months at this point, and I believe she had died in the winter. And so she still looked fresh and vibrant. So that right there is sort of an indication that something is amiss. So they cut out the heart and I believe the liver. And they believe that if these organs had blood in them, that was an indication that this body was harming the living.
Right. And wasn't there, didn't they find fresh blood in her heart?
So the people, the onlookers felt that it was fresh or fresh enough to be kind of evidence. I believe the doctor of the village felt that it was coagulated and was to be expected, but the people of the town felt that they were satisfied with what they saw, that here was the evidence that Mercy Brown was causing the death of her brother Edwin.
Now, they did the same thing that they did in Romania back in 2004, right?
Yes, they did. And so I've found references to this tradition, back, in older accounts in Romania. So this was a thing. They took the heart, and I believe they took the liver. They burned it on a stone in the graveyard. They took the ashes, they mixed it with water, and they gave it to Edwin to drink, believing that would cure him of his affliction. Unfortunately, it did not, and Edwin passes away a short time later.
Now, there was a whole vampire panic in New England, too, at the same time, right? I mean, Mercy Brown was just one.
Right. So this had happened at various points, in the 1800s and 1700s in New England. So there are a number of accounts about this. It's hard to say how many times it actually happened, because I don't think it was something people necessarily wanted to advertise or talk about very much.
Right.
Certainly, it's kind of it's a sad thing. It's a gruesome thing. The Mercy Brown one is well known because it was in the late 1800s. I believe was the last time this was done in Rhode Island, and the newspapers picked up on the story. So there were a number of newspaper articles that talked about it, and kind of, it was sort of this sensational thing. But yeah, it was not sort of the only time it happened in New England. And so, like, there are some other grave sites as well that are around that are associated to some of these vampire incidents. There's one we don't know where it is, but this one happened in Massachusetts. I believe the siblings were dying, and one of the siblings was thought to be to blame. I think they exhumed the body, and I think they turned it upside down or something like that, believing that it wouldn't find its way out.
Flipped it over in the casket.
Yeah.
What about
that was
that's that whole string in New England at that time. The newspapers were picking up on it, and vampires were walking around in New England at that time. They really felt that this is what was going on. What about modern accounts in the 20th century and the 21st century of people drinking blood?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on if you're getting into more of like the if you're thinking of like the supernatural kind of accounts, or just sort of people who like think they're vampires.
Right. Well, actually both. But what about the people that think that they are vampires?
Sure. I mean, there are some conditions where people do think that they need to consume blood or something like that. And there obviously have been some other accounts where there's some sort of gruesome things and murders and stuff like that. So there are that, I guess, has happened where people do they have sort of a condition where they believe this to be the case. Then there's other people too, I think, that they think that they need to consume small amounts of blood to feel normal. And then of course there's also these like people who they're like energy vampires. They think they need to absorb the energy from people, or something like that. So there's a lot of different sort of interpretations and stuff. That is not necessarily where my research interest lies. So like I haven't talked to people who kind of think that they're vampires or something like that. I haven't really gotten into that, but there is a community of folks out there that that sort of feel that they have these urges or tendencies or whatever. And I think there's other folks too that just they kind of like the aesthetic of vampires and sort of like to dress and behave in a certain fashion. I mean, in terms of actual sort of folklore or supernatural beliefs or something, obviously we talked about the account in the 2000s. There was an incident in it was like the late 60s, early 70s in London, the Highgate vampire, where people were seeing this, like Highgate Cemetery is this very sort of beautiful Victorian cemetery in London, and it's got a great aesthetic to it. There were people believing that they saw this kind of shadowy figure looming around the cemetery, and animals drained of blood were showing up, were being found on the grounds and stuff like that. And the whole, there's a lot of newspaper articles and people coming out and talking about it, and the whole thing kind of culminated in this kind of vampire hunt where all these people kind of stormed the cemetery and ended up causing a lot of sort of vandalism and damage and that sort of thing. But Highgate Cemetery is also interesting because they it was a setting for some of the Hammer Dracula movies. I think Taste the Blood of Dracula, they shoot some scenes at Highgate Cemetery. And also some people think that Highgate Cemetery was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's the scene in Dracula where they go to destroy the vampire of Lucy Westenra. They feel that Stoker was thinking of Highgate when he created that cemetery setting.
I in prepping for the show tonight, I went and looked to see if there were anybody that was accused of drinking blood in modern history, and I was shocked to see the list of. There's Peter Curtin, the vampire of Dusseldorf. Yeah, Fritz Harman, the vampire of Hanover. Joseph Thatcher, the French Ripper, and that guy was out of control. Neville Heath, Andre. Chikatilo from Russia, very famous serial killer out of Russia. Vincenzo Verzini, again, this goes back to the 1870s, but 12 people he killed and drank their blood. The vampire of Sacramento, right here in California. What was his name? Richard Chase, very famous case out here. But again, I had no idea that this was going on as frequently as it has been in the 20th century, in the 21st century.
It is very disturbing, and I think probably it's important to draw a distinction between kind of these serial killer cases that you're talking about with sort of blood consumption, stuff like that, and sort of the vampire community out there where people believe they need to have small amounts of blood from willing participants.
Right.
So it's probably important to draw that distinction.
No, absolutely, and there. It's what's going through their mind. Are they influenced by Christopher Lee, right? Are they influenced by some of the pop culture that is out there? Oh, I wanted to ask you before a couple of other points that I meant to bring up earlier. The first one is a vampire has to be invited in the house. Where are the origins for this?
That's one where it certainly it feels like it should be in folklore. It sort of has that ring to it, but the first time it is really definitively said is in Dracula, in Stoker's work. There are some folkloric accounts that might kind of move the needle in that direction. There were some beliefs where like the vampire would go to your door and call out to you. And if you responded, you would subsequently die. And it was also in those beliefs, it was also thought that the vampire would only ask either like 2 times or 3 times. So you wouldn't ask until someone called out for you like 3 times or something like that. But it was really not about getting an invitation in or something like that. It was more responding to a call. So there was another account where this girl's lover dies unbeknownst to her, and so his vampire comes to her one night outside her window and asks her to come out to him, because in this story, in this folktale, vampires couldn't enter houses that were considered clean and holy, are the terms they use. So even if she had tried to invite him in, he wouldn't have been able to come in. He had to get her out of the house because he would have been barred from entering. So again, moving the needle in that direction of kind of this notion of invitations or vampires can't get in. But ultimately, it does come from Stoker. There's also a couple other literary sources, like stories and stuff, that again move the needle, but it is kind of Stoker. And if you look at some of the accounts, it sort of makes sense that inviting vampires in really wasn't present, because people are getting sick, people are dying. No one's inviting any vampires in. They're just seeing their friends and neighbors get ill. So it sort of stands to reason that they thought something more substantial had to be done to keep the vampire out.
Now, what about fangs?
Oh yeah, I can ruin this one too. Sometimes I feel kind of bad. There are no fangs in folklore. Actually, it doesn't come up. It's actually never mentioned that vampires have fangs. The extended canines that we think of and associate so much with vampires. There are a couple references to vampires having elongated teeth, but they use the term teeth. They don't use fangs or canines or anything like that. Some people have interpreted that to maybe that might be people misconstruing the receding gums due to decomposition. But there's no fangs, and there's no like those kind of the iconic two little wounds in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
That is also not present in folklore. If there are wounds, if there is a wound on the neck, it's just one. It's mentioned that there was a wound on the neck in some accounts, but not like the two. And then in other accounts, there's no talk of any kind of wounds, but they see the blood on the vampire and they assume it's been drinking blood. The fangs were introduced in a penny dreadful called Varney the Vampire from it was like the 1840s, but it was a very long running serial that covered the exploits of this vampire named Sir Francis Varney. And he in the story he has fangs and leaves the two puncture wounds. And it's something that's sort of, it's just a given for us today. It's such an established piece of imagery, but you can kind of imagine how sort of fresh it would have been to Victorian readers.
Well, okay, so the biting of the neck and the fangs is only 200 years old, right? Which I would consider the modern side of writing and documentation. But going back into the 1700, 1600, 1500, there was no biting of the neck. How were they drinking the blood?
So there might have been in the folklore there might have been a wound on the neck, but it wouldn't have been the fangs, right? So they might have sort of attacked the neck and taken blood from the neck, but it wouldn't have been through like the two little puncture wounds.
A knife, a slashing of the neck?
Well, there was one belief that I think it was in Russia. The vampire had like a barb on the end of its tongue, like a stinger almost. And so that's one case. So sometimes I wonder if like some of the stories that had the singular wound might have been kind of related to that. I think there were some accounts. One account I read, one sort of folktale I read, was the vampire kind of he entered the house and he kind of struck someone on the back and kind of split the skin and made a wound and actually collected the blood in a pail that came out and then drank from the pail. I think in some other accounts there's like a wound around the heart. They thought that the vampire was attacking through the chest. I think a lot of accounts, it actually isn't mentioned. Like in the Peter Blagojevich account, they don't mention wounds or anything like that, but they see the blood on the corpse and go, he's been drinking blood. So I think it was just a matter of, the vampire was somehow getting blood. People are getting sick. That's the mechanism from they're doing it. And they didn't necessarily need to explain it, especially sort of when there was this kind of hysteria going on.
Now, what about, and I've got one last quick question, probably the best one of the night. Shape-shifting into a bat. Where did that come from?
Vampires were there are a number of beliefs surrounding vampires turning into animals. Turning into a bat is virtually unheard of in folklore. For the longest while, it was thought that Stoker had invented it.
Mm-hmm.
In my research, I found a scholarly article that identified like a couple literary precursors and like a couple folkloric references. But it's practically non-existent. Vampires turning into bats. It was, if not invented by Stoker, it was certainly popularized by him, which I know is surprising because we tend to associate bats with the night and all that stuff. But for some reason, it just wasn't. It wasn't really a big part of folklore at all. Practically not there.
Now, who are you going to be for Halloween?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be. I'll just be myself. Maybe I don't know.
Why is it, I mean, that being a vampire on Halloween, I've done it so many times. It's like the go-to, right? It's
oh yeah. It's one of the classics, right? You got vampire, werewolf, like witch and mummy. Like maybe those are like those are the big ones. I was a vampire as a child. I think I had like a little Dracula medallion and the plastic teeth and all that stuff. I just think the vampire, it just sort of resonates with us, and I think it resonates with people. The vampire has changed and adapted over time through different literary works and movies and stuff like that. So it sort of evolves to sort of always be relevant for us. And I think that's why it's still very much sort of part of the culture, and that's why people still like dressing up as vampires even today.
AP Sylvia, what a great conversation tonight. Thank you for everything. Of course, your website is locationsoflore.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Where can everybody go and get your book?
You can find my book on sort of all the major online booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Last time I checked, some different Barnes & Noble locations had my book in stock. So you might want to, you could potentially check to see if your local store has it. If a local independent bookstore, you can ask them to get it in for you as well. So it's out there, and there's a number of different ways to grab it.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation tonight, and I look forward to our next one. Good job.
Thank you so much.
AP Sylvia, thank you so much. And again, the links for AP are right there at jimmychurchradio.com, locationsoflore.com. Now, as I head to the break, tons of tech platforms right now have stopped their COVID-19 relief discounts, but not Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield continues to offer its loyal customers a whopping 50% off of all plans for life. I want you to go right now to the links right below in the description box right here. All you have to do, if you want to browse the internet like I do, anonymously and securely, please visit virtualshield.com/fade to black or click on the link below in the description for Virtual Shield. Right now, 30 days for free. Click on the link. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank AP Sylvia. What a great conversation tonight. Learned a lot. Vampires. I'm opening up the phone line, 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. And absolutely want to talk vampires. I mean... the thing is, for me, you have all of the modern stuff, and of course, I'm talking about Anne Rice and that. But we all grew up with vampires. I mean, that's it. We all grew up with them. Got my earliest memories of when I'm watching those excellent black and white movies back in the late '60s. For me, it was a Creature Features in Chicago on Friday nights, WGN Channel 9. And it seemed like all of that stuff was in heavy rotation all the time. But the original Dracula got me. The original Mummy got me. The original Frankenstein got me at a very early age. But going back then, when you're watching... Bela Lugosi, I don't drink wine, right? You're seeing that. And then you've got Count Chocula's cereal. You got the Count on Sesame Street. I was walking around just like everybody else, thinking that vampires were real. I always thought, and especially the Count on Sesame Street, he was the coolest character on Sesame Street. He was the coolest one. Count Chocula, the coolest cereal, right? The coolest dude out there was Count Dracula in the movies. I was okay with it. I'm not so sure, and this is kind of what I want to talk to all of. I'm not so sure that I was ever really scared of vampires. Right? Didn't we always kind of hope we would meet one? Right? And I'm being serious too. In a weird way, vampires were cool. And that's the imagery that we had. So anyway, fast forward to Lost Boys. That was a great movie. Okay, first off, let's just stop right there. Great movie from start to finish. But the way that Kiefer and his crew, right, guitars, living in the cave, what was it, Santa Clara? What was the community? Santa Clara, California. They made it cool too. Rode motorcycles. Remember the scene on the bridge, right? Floating in the clouds, in the fog. That was some flying. That was some crazy stuff. And that exemplified the imagery that all of us grew up with. Vampires were cool. Had the cool clothes, right? Think about that. Vampires are not scary. Not to me, at least. Now, there's the whole other side of it. I get it. And if you go, how do I say this right? Whether you're watching, Christopher Lee or Bela Lugosi or Tom Cruise, whatever, playing these vampires, Kiefer Sutherland, you wanted to be scared. We're talking about victims and the drinking of blood, but then there's the other part of it where there was some tense moments, but you were never really scared. Was it always an element of cool? 747-228-2051. The sideburns, right? The widow's peak. Everybody wants a set of fangs, right? Live forever. What was I remember in an interview with a vampire, the baby vampire, the baby vampire, trapped, being how old was he? 8 years old or something, for eternity. That was a little tragic. That was a little harsh, but yeah. Simon Templar, James Bond they were. I agree. They are like the Simon Templar, James Bond of the underworld. Was it Bob Wilkins that did Creature Features? Was that right, in Chicago? Man, I need to go back and think about that. Yeah, I think everybody's going to agree that Lost Boys was cool. All right, 747-228-2051. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Oh. I take a weekend off and I forget how to operate my own switchboard. So funny. I do it every single time. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Deb.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Hi. Oh, I'm thinking about being a vampire. I think he recruited me.
Mm-hmm.
Just one caveat.
Well, and what's that?
I can't give up regular food. It's just too darn good. But the thought of being immortal and being able to fly in superhuman strength, and if you watch the Twilight series in True Blood, they're beautiful, they're immortal. Hey, I'm a night owl anyway. I sleep during the days. Apparently vampire sex is great, but I can't give up the food.
Yeah, I know. I guess that. Let's discuss that for a second. Right.
Okay.
So wait. Well, let's. What the pluses, right? The plus side.
Mm-hmm.
You're immortal. You're a sexual creature, right? And certainly True Blood. Took that to a whole nother level.
Yep.
What was Suki Stackhouse's brother's name?
God, I can't remember. I want to say Evan or Eric or.
No, Eric. Eric.
Eric was the blonde one. Yeah. No. Who would know is who was it that posted Eric?
What
Oh,
was?
come on. Whoever
Okay.
posts True Blood, Fate or Not, throw it in there because
Yeah.
they put it on Windows Sandbox.
But so the plus side, again, you get to stay up all night and you sleep all day. That's all cool, right? But
Yeah.
is food an issue? Do you remember a vampire eating food? It seems like they used to have tables set up for a feast, but that was for their victims, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I can't recall ever seeing in the vampire series that I've watched, I can't recall ever seeing the vampire eat regular food.
Oh,
I'd see them
Jason.
There you go. Okay.
Jason Stackhouse.
There you go.
The doofus vampire with great abs.
Yeah. Oh, they all have great abs, don't they?
Seems like they do. But so
know.
that would kind of negate some of the appeal of being a vampire, right? If you can't live, be immortal, eating whatever you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then you look at the other side of it. I don't know if you've ever seen the Twilight series, but, apparently if, the sex is that great and they can fly and they have superhuman powers and the energy that surges through them is just like the super euphoria, maybe they wouldn't even be thinking about food until they get hungry and need blood.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
think...
it's not even something that appeals to them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as a human, I can't relate as a human, obviously. But when you paint out that scenario, I'm thinking, start craving pizza and In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And here's the downside of the Twilight series. I don't think any men have seen the films. That's a chick thing.
Probably.
No, but not probably. I haven't. I mean, any male Fadernauts out there want to admit to seeing the Twilight series of films? I want to see your post right now on #F2B, and let me know how great the films are. I have no idea. But what about, since we're on the subject, Underworld? Underworld, amazing.
I never saw that. Never saw it.
See, because that's a male thing.
Probably.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's Kate Beckinsale. So isn't she in that?
Yeah, she's in that, but so many. Bill Nighy, he's the actual. I would say he's the co-star. So Kate's there. Bill Nighy's the leader. He's like King Dracula. But yeah, what about I'm not sure how old you are. Did you watch the original Dark Shadows in the 70s?
It was on when I was a little girl, and my mom would watch it in the afternoon, so I vaguely remember it, but I didn't really watch it, no. I was probably 5 years old when that was on.
Yeah, and this is what I remember, and I'm not making this up either.
I remember Barnabas.
Yeah, Barnabas. That was another. I forgot about Barnabas. Okay, but I remember I'd be playing outside, right? Come in the house. My mom and her friends are watching Dark Shadows, and they wouldn't let us watch it. It was like, Dark Shadows is on. We can't even look at the TV right now. And I have no idea. I was never able to watch it streaming. I'm wondering if it is.
Well, the thing is, soap operas even back then had that adult component of adult relationships. If you don't want your children exposed to that, then you don't let them watch soap operas. I mean, my mom used to watch General Hospital, and I wasn't allowed to watch it for years until I was a young teenager because she didn't want me to be corrupted. People are constantly, doing things they shouldn't do on a morality basis. So it depends on how your parenting went. So it sounds like your mom was protecting you from Dark Shadows.
I think she was just putting up some boundaries. There was a lot of I remember. Now look, we're going to it had to have been like 1969, 68, 69, 70, right in that period, which would have made me 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And I do remember the social talk about Dark Shadows that it was daytime TV and it was a horror soap opera that was pretty dark. And I remember the talk about that, and there was a lot of negativity that was surrounding Dark Shadows. Now, again, I haven't seen it as an adult, so I really can't comment about how far it went because I don't know. I've seen clips of it over the years, but I don't even know if it's streaming.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Can we talk about the Queen Mary for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so I already got my ticket. I've talked to other Fadernauts that are going to be getting their tickets. And while we're watching you ghost hunt, will there be a live chat streaming where we can talk to each other during the ghost hunt?
I don't know. I would assume. What's the website say? I didn't look. I've been all over the website. I didn't look for that.
I didn't look for that either. I haven't been back online, and I signed up last week, so I haven't checked that out. But Paranormal Girl and I were talking about it, and I said if they have that, that would be cool because the Fadernauts can all, engage together and watch you at the same time.
Okay, it says right here.
So that would be cool.
It says right here on the homepage, in all caps, live chat.
Nice.
It's right there. How'd you miss that?
I told you I wasn't looking for it when I signed up. I was just kind of signing up, and I wasn't really. I watched the trailer, and I'm like, cool. And then I logged off because I wanted to get onto other stuff.
Well, it says
so I
right
wasn't
here.
Really paying attention.
It says right here for $19.99, you will get live chat. It's the top thing on the list, Deb.
Okay, well,
I'm
but if I'm not looking for it, I know you are, you brat.
I'm making it up.
I think you should get your teeth out. Do you have your Halloween teeth?
I'm making it all up. But this is what it says here. It says
you're such a brat.
It says right here, unprecedented virtual access to the entire ship. 24-hour surveillance of the most haunted rooms. Interaction with your favorite. See, right there. Interaction with your favorite paranormal investigators. Musical performances. Very special celebrity guest appearances, virtual Halloween costume contest and prize giveaways, Day of the Dead celebration, and live chat.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so
that's going to be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this.
Have you ever been on the Queen Mary?
Yes, I have. I've been down there a few times.
Recently or like years and years ago?
The last time I was at on the Queen Mary, that
on the Queen Mary, taking a tour on the Queen Mary.
Probably in the 90s. In the 90s. But I've been down there next to it. Man, I think I walked up, it was closed. And this would have been around 2010. And 2010, maybe 2011, 2010, right in there, 2009. I went down there and they were doing repairs on it and getting ready to reopen. And I was down there and I walked up and they let me walk up into a door. That's what I remember. There was a door on the side of the ship, and there was a gangway, and we walked. I was able to go into the door, but that was the last time, probably 2010.
Okay. Yeah, can I tell you about my tour there in 1986?
Sure. What happened?
Actually, it was 1987. We were down San Diego visiting my mom's friends because they went to nursing school together. And her and her husband took us on, the Queen Mary. They took us all over Long Beach, but they wanted to go there. And back then, it wasn't promoted as a ghost tour. So we had lunch there, and it was cool. And then we did the regular tour. And so I walked through there not expecting anything creepy. We got down to, and this is what I recall, and I could be wrong, the bottom, the Ouija thing the other night was freaking me out. The bottom of the ship is where the pool was, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we went down to the bottom of the ship, and then there was like a big bar down there where you could order a soda and sit and whatever, and the pool was just off in the distance. As I'm sitting at the table, my friends, I look across and I see a guy, and the pool's empty. It's all drained. There's a guy in brown coveralls, and he's an old man, and he's over there, and he's got this long pole, and it looks like he's cleaning the sides of the pool. And I get up to get something. I come back. I look over, and he's completely gone. He's gone. And I go, did you guys see that guy standing over there? and they didn't know what I was talking about. And I go and I get close. I mean, it was like 2 seconds. I turned around. They didn't know what I was talking about, and he was gone. So I asked the tour guide. I said, "Is there someone that you guys keep down here to clean the pool area?" And she goes, "No, there's nobody down here. We don't keep those kind of people around here." And it just freaked me. I was like, "Oh my God, what did I just see?" And so I swear to God, Jimmy. So the Ouija thing the other night, and her talking about the bottom of the ship triggered that memory. I haven't thought about it. I've never thought about it again. It was that one experience, and I was like, holy crap. And they're like, oh, you're just seeing things. Well, no, I'm not. You know, I know what I saw. And so I started thinking about that again. The memory was vivid, and I was just like, God, you know. So when they talked in your Ouija reading about the three of us had been on the ship and something about at the bottom, I'm thinking they mean the bottom of the ship, the bottom where that pool area is. And that's where the spirits were, at least what I saw. And so when they were doing that reading and you were saying, no, the period goes after bottom, I'm like, yes, it goes after bottom. They're talking about the bottom of the ship.
Well, that's a great ghost story. I mean, that's a real ghost story.
I know.
I mean, that's crazy town. You know,
I know.
What really freaked me out about the Queen Mary. Now, I've done a couple of different things with the Queen Mary over the years, and going back to my first time down there was probably right before you, about 1985. Went down there. But I've taken a private boat that I was actually driving, steering, whatever you want to call it, around the Queen Mary. Got a really good look at it, went right up next to it. But when you're there at the dock and you stand at the front or the back of the boat, forward or aft, it doesn't matter, and you look down the side of it, it's got this, you don't appreciate the size of it until you are down there and you look up and you see it, and you look down the side and it's got a very, what's the word I want to use? Lonely, right? It's got this aura about it, and it's floating. It's there, and you're thinking, how can this thing float? It's massive. But you look down the side and it's black, and you look down the side and it's got like, it's not smooth. It's got like dents, you know, and things, and it looks old. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, it's silent, and it's sitting there, and it's floating next to the dock, and it's got this very lonely thing to it. Eerie.
Yeah.
It makes noises. There's water being pumped out of it, you know, so that's going on, and it's pretty eerie. So yeah, I'm totally looking forward to it. There's something ghostly. I guess that's the right way to put it. So
well, I totally believe that thing is haunted after what I saw. And like I said, back then it wasn't being touted as a haunted tour. It was just a regular tour. So I never expected to see anything. And I've just, God, you know, I remember going back up the ship on the way back, and I was just shaking.
Well, I wonder if
this just happened.
Okay, well, I wonder if, and I will check with the folks over at the Dark Zone. I'm wondering if I can go down to the pool.
If it's still there.
Why wouldn't the pool still be there?
Oh, well, I would think it would still be there. But, you know, that was back in 1986, 87. I don't know if they've done anything to refurbish that ship. I don't know.
Well,
I have no
I'm going to
idea.
find out. I'm going to find out. And I will ask. Well, see, Aiden and Becca, they are, they do what's the word I'm looking for? They do a theatrical performance. They do seances on the boat. Okay, and they have a room. It's like a Broadway. It's a theatrical. It's a presentation, dinner theater. That's what they do. So they know everything about the ship and the ghosts and the most haunted rooms and stuff. So I'm going to ask them about the pool, and if anybody else has seen a pool cleaner. That's very, very interesting. So I'll see if I can make my way down there. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of making your way over to places, did you make your way over to that destination that you emailed me for your package?
I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So-
I'll reveal it tomorrow. I got a whole load of stuff I've got to go through, but I'll do it tomorrow on the show.
I don't want to spoil it. I'll wait till you reveal because I have a request about what to do with the remains, and that's all I'll say.
What did you send me? A dead cat?
No, of course not.
What do you mean the remains? Okay,
well,
now
if I see the remains, then I'll give it away.
Okay, all right. Now you've got.
You want me to tell you?
No.
Okay.
No. But
You'll get it when you see it. You'll understand, and then when you think about what's left after what you do with it, there'll be something left, and what's left, I have a request about.
Okay.
And it fits into a Halloween theme.
Okay.
And when you reveal, I'll tweet it in the sandbox, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, Deb. Thank you for the phone call. Wow, that everybody that's on hold, sorry about that, but that's the way it goes.
Sorry, Fader Nods.
That's the way it goes. Thank you so much, Deb.
Debbie's hogging the phone again. Go back, Lee Tappy, Jimmy.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you, Deb. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Bye. Bye.
And a pool cleaner. Now, isn't that interesting? Huh. Yeah, I've got to find out about that, and we'll see. Maybe they were planning on going down there anyway. I don't know, but let's see if I can make a special trip. I don't know. I don't know if there's cameras already in the pool room. I don't know. I'm going to find out. And I'll get back to everybody on that. But wouldn't that be cool? I have no idea. Tomorrow night, we're going to have Aiden, Becca, and Susan on the show, and I will be able to ask them tomorrow night. Very, very interesting. What a great week we've got lined up. And tonight, the conversation with AP Sylvia was absolutely amazing. And locationsoflore.com is his website, and you can just head over to jimmychurchradio.com and click right there. Also, our new sponsor, Virtual Shield. The banner is up over at jimmychurchradio.com, and you can click and go and get yourself a VPN today. You need to do it. You want to surf anonymously and securely on the web, virtualshield.com/fade to black. Tomorrow night is Aiden Sinclair, Becca Knight, and Susan Slaughter. We will be discussing the Queen Mary and our haunted weekend that is coming up over Halloween. And then Wednesday night, of course, is the return of Richard Dolan. We will be doing all of this. So much to discuss when it comes to UFOs and UAPs and the headlines that are continuing all around the world. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night tonight. What a great week we have coming up. And, of course, Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Show is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, the Queen Mary. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.